All right, 59. Such is the caution that must be principally observed in joking. Those subjects accordingly are most readily jested upon, which are neither provocative of violent aversion nor of extreme compassion. All matter for ridicule is therefore found to lie in such defects as are to be observed in the characters of men not in universal esteem, nor in calamitous circumstances, and who do not appear deserving to be dragged to punishment for their crimes. Such topics nicely managed create laughter. In deformity also and bodily defects is found fair enough matter for ridicule, but we have to ask the same question here as is asked on other points: how far the ridicule may be carried. In this respect, it is not only directed that the orator should say nothing impertinently, but also that even if he can say anything very ridiculously, he should avoid both errors, lest his joke become either buffoonery or mimicry, qualities of which we shall better understand the nature when we come to consider the different species of the ridiculous. There are two sorts of jokes, one of which is excited by things, the other by words. By things, whenever a matter is told in the way of a story, as Eucrasius formerly stated in a speech against Memmius, that he had eaten a piece of Largias's arm because he had a quarrel with him at Tarracenia about a courtesan. It was a witty story, but wholly of your own invention. You added this particular that throughout Tarracenia these letters were inscribed on every wall, MM and LLL, and that when you inquired what they meant, an old man of the town replied, Moradacius Memmius lacerates Largias's limb. You perceive clearly how fictitious this mode of joking may be, how elegant, how suitable to an orator, whether you have any true story to tell, which, however, must be interspersed with fictitious circumstances, or whether you merely invent. The excellence of such jesting is that you can describe things as occurring in such a way, what the manners, the language, and every look of the person of whom you speak may be represented, so that the occurrences may seem to the audience to pass and take place at the very time when you address them. Another kind of jest taken from things is that which is derived from a depraved sort of imitation or mimicry, as when Crassius also exclaimed, by your nobility, by your family. What else was there at which the assembly could laugh but that mimicry of look and tone? But when he said, by your statues, and added something of gesture by extending his arm, we all laughed immoderately. Of this species is Rosicius's imitation of an old man when he says, for you, my antipho, I plant these trees. It is old age itself that seems to speak while I listen to him, but all this department of ridicule is of such a nature that it must be attempted with the greatest caution. For if the imitation is too extravagant, it becomes, like indecency, the part of players in pantomime and farce. The orator should be moderate in imitation, that the audience may conceive more than they can see represented by him. He ought also to give proof of ingenuousness and modesty by avoiding everything offensive or unbecoming in word or act. 60. These, therefore, are the two kinds of the ridiculous which is drawn from things, and they suit well with continuous pieces of humor in which the manners of mankind are so described and expressed that either by means of some narrative their character is exactly understood, or by throwing in a little mimicry they may be convicted of some impropriety remarkable enough for ridicule. But in words, the ridiculous is that which is excited by the point of a particular expression or thought, but as in the former kind, both in narration or imitation, all resemblance to the players of pantomime should be avoided. So in this, all scurrilous buffoonery is to be studiously shunned by the orator. How then shall we distinguish from Crassius, from Catullus, and from others, your acquaintances, Granius, or my friend Vargula? No proper distinction really occurs to me, for they are both witty. No man has more of verbal witticism than Granius. The first point to be observed, however, is I think that we should not fancy ourselves obliged to utter a jest whenever one may be uttered. A very little witness was produced. May I question him, says Philippus. The judge who presided, being in a hurry, replied, yes, if he is short. You shall have no fault to find, said Philippus, for I shall question him very short. This was ridiculous enough, but Lucius Aurofex was sitting as judge in the cause, who was shorter than the witness himself, so that all the laughter was turned upon the judge, and hence the joke appeared scurrilous. Those good things, therefore, which hit those whom you do not mean to hit, however witty they are yet in their nature scurrilous, as when a pious, who would be thought witty, and indeed is so, but sometimes slides into this fault of scurrility, says to Caius Sextius, an acquaintance of mine who is blind of an eye, I will sup with you tonight, for I see there is a vacancy for one. This is a scurrilous joke, both because he attacked Sextius without provocation and said what was equally applicable to all one-eyed persons. Such jokes, as they are thought premeditated, excite less laughter, but the reply of Sextius was excellent and extempore. Wash your hands, said he, and come to supper. A regard, therefore, to proper times, moderation and forbearance in jesting, and a limitation in the number of jokes will distinguish the orator from the buffoon. And the circumstances besides, that we joke with an object, not that we may appear to be jesters, but that we may gain some advantage, while they joke all day without any purpose whatever. For what did Vargula gain by saying, when Ullius Sempronius, then a candidate for office, and his brother Marcus saluted him, boy, drive away the flies? His aim was to raise a laugh, which is, in my opinion, a very poor effect of wit. The proper season, then, for jesting we must determine by our own prudence and judgment, in the exercise of which I wish that we had some body of rules to direct us, but nature is the sovereign guide.